Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Alex Rude from the WILDLABS team, and I'm going to be your host today for June Variety Hour. We have some great speakers lined up today, including 3 speed talks from Seema Lokhandwala, Mercedes Quintana, Alexander Merdian-Tarko, and a longer talk from Shauna Mahajan. So first, I'm going to pass it off to Seema to kick things off by sharing more about innovating coexistence strategies by deciphering elephant calls. So Seema, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Alex. Let's get started. So today I'm going to be talking about the innovating coexistence strategies by deciphering elephant calls. I work in the northeast of India. I'm right now based out of the northeast of India. I'll show it on the map so most people would not know where the northeast of India is in the part of India that we're talking about. We'll talk about it. And I work and run the Elephant Acoustic Project. And this work that I'll be representing right now is about the work that the Elephant Acoustic Project does. Okay, so most of us know that humans and wildlife have shared habitats and resources from the prehistoric time to the current day. But this land, since the time it became a commodity that people started to possess, from being when they started being hunter and gatherer to a settled livelihood agriculture, a lot of conflict has happened. And also, a lot of conflict has started happening with elephants. So, if you look at elephants, there's a huge, in India alone, because of the Asian elephant population, which is 60% of the world population that we have it in India alone, there are a lot of human elephant conflict. And out of that, in Assam, where the region in the northeast of India that I work on, there are like human elephant conflict deaths and casualties and injuries on day-to-day basis. It's not that it happens like once in a blue moon. It's happening ongoing almost every other day. And the traditional methods that the people have been using have not been so effective, and hence the conflict has been over time increasing. It has increased to both the extent that the elephant population has also increased, as well as the human, in some ways, the human population has also increased a lot during the short duration of time. Hence, so the conflict has increased. So just keeping in mind, there are about 500 to 600 humans and 100 plus elephants which die because of these conflicts that happen in this region. So we just moving forward to just telling about where the study site is. The study site is Kaziranga National Park. When you look in the map of India, it's like this chicken head that you see popping outside. That's where my work is mostly based out of. It's a beautiful national park. It's a World Heritage UNESCO site. So we see a lot of rhinos, a lot of elephants, about a population of 1,000 elephants. But the problem with the national park is that it is connected through a national highway, which runs right now to the south of it, that you can see on the map, National Highway 37 that runs back. And there is a river Brahmaputra that is completely blocking the river right on the top. And every year, if you keep hearing about the flood situation in Assam, or if you have ever heard about India, there is a lot of flood that happens because of the river Brahmaputra. And because of this, the whole national park is flooded. So all the elephants and other wildlife have to cross these areas, which are called corridors that they map onto, and they have to go to find higher ground for safety. And as that happens, there is a lot more conflict that happens with the people. And when we started looking at the conflict intensity that was happening in this region, we found that the human elephant conflict intensity, we interviewed people within the region. We interviewed 500 people in different villages. In every village, we interviewed people, and we kind of understood that the conflict is distributed over a period of time. Like there is conflict in higher where the corridors are. And these black lines on the map are where actually the elephants and the other wildlife use these landscape to cross over, and there's much more conflict that's happening in this region. Hence, we thought about using elephant acoustics or elephant communication as a medium and developing technology that can act as an early warning to mitigate this conflict, which is very much present. So we talked about now, most of you who are in this community might know about acoustic technology, and which has been using acoustic technology in wildlife monitoring. But we, just to give an idea, it is like a using audio recording devices to capture elephant sounds in real time, which will be a non-invasive 24 monitoring, and it identifies the presence and the movement and the behavior of the elephants. So from the perspective of the elephant behavior, they are a highly social species, but they are spatially dispersed, and they use both the long distance as well as short distance communication to have these group cohesion and coordination. And they produce a lot range of calls, which are these low frequency rumbles to very high frequency trumpets, chirp and roar. And these low frequency calls travel a long distance. So this idea of developing a system is to patch into these low frequency calls where they are using for communication and to mitigate conflict and identify where the elephants are coming out from a particular region especially, and early warn the people that this is the region where the elephants are coming from and how can you mitigate it. Moving forward, just to give an idea, I don't know if these will play, but if you have all heard elephant sounds, if you haven't, so just to get a glimpse of it, it's like a spectrogram of elephant sounds. Is this audible or not so?
Maybe try playing it again. It might have been short.
Okay. If not,
I can't
then
tell if I'm.
okay, so there are these different types of calls, but the only interesting one that is used mostly for conflict mitigation is rumble, because rumbles are these low frequency calls. If you look over here in a spectrogram, you hear them, you see them, the highest energy is less than 20 hertz. So these calls travel longer distances as well as they're low frequency, you can't hear them. So I would not even play it, but yeah, you might just hear like a kind of a sound, which is a motorcycle roaring around. So something of that sort. But yeah, these calls do play a very important role in elephant communication. So now this is a proposed system that we are working with for mitigating human wildlife conflict in the region. So I'll just go through this whole system. There are bits and pieces of the system that we've been able to do it, and bits and pieces is where like we would be more than happy to collaborate on. So the system right now works with a acoustic recorder, which is a basic recorder that we use. And we use a blocking and a feature extraction to extract elephant sounds from the background noise. Once we have blocked them, and then we make them extract and classify it based on is this an elephant sound and or a background noise classification. It's actually very challenging and it is not happening as efficiently as we want, because most of these elephant rumble calls which are present, they're low frequency and they have like a lot of problem with identifying which the other calls do not have that much of problem, because there are trumpets and chirp and roar which are very commonly made. Like a chirp will be sound something like, so it's very easily identified compared to the rumble call. And even very high bodied like a truck or a passing truck and any of those, as well as aeroplanes flying in the air, also produce low frequency calls. So there are these low frequency energy that's also coming through a lot of external factors, which is the major problem with the elephant versus background noise classification. And once we think that we have elephant call that is detected, we can determine from the elephant call, that work we've been able to do is to determine the sex of the individual and the arousal level of the individual. And once we know what is the sex and the arousal level, we could possibly say that this elephant could it lead to any agnostic interactions with the humans, and if it can lead to agnostic interactions, how do you activate either one of the systems? You early warn the people that see the elephant is nearby and that this is the problem that can happen, can you please move away or use any other mitigation technique. And we've also developed this active deterrent system where we use calls in a round robin manner, and we try to deter the elephants from the area. And that seems to be working really fine, because we've used tiger calls, leopard calls, as well as other calls within the region, and they have worked comparatively really fine, and elephants have not been using this region. Moving forward, the acoustic technology offers a promising tool, but there are these challenges that I was talking about. And this way, we feel that understanding the elephant calls can help in mitigating conflict and innovating different coexistence strategies. We are looking forward to scaling up the technology, as well as looking continued research, and also community involvement will be essential for our work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so
And
much. No, you did perfect. Thank you so much for that. I don't think we have time for live questions, but I would definitely love to. I don't know if you've one of our Wild Labs Awards 2024 winners worked on developing an audio moth to detect like infrasonic elephant rumbles, and I would love to, I don't know if you're familiar with that project, but somebody from the Wild Labs team would be happy to connect you to them, because it seems like you guys are working on potentially at least similar sort of work streams. Thank you so much, Seema, for that presentation. Next up for our second speed talk, we are going to hand it over to Mercedes Quintana, and she will be talking to us about automating X-ray imaging for ecological landmarking. So whenever you're ready, Mercedes, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. So I'm a student in the Human Augmented Analytics group. This is a group that connects master's students with research opportunities at Georgia Tech. And you can see we're all over the world. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. So I am in a lab with Dr. Stroud. He works on lizards, and yeah, let's talk about my actual project. So we're developing a system to improve the efficiency of landmarking anatomical features in animals. These black dots here on the screen, these are our landmarks. I took this from a study that is looking at the difference in toe pads between lizards that live in the city versus lizards that live in the forest. And this is really helpful because it tells us about how different regions are coaxing different evolutionary physical traits in lizards and how well these lizards are surviving in that habitat. So, like in order to get this, the measurements that they need to take to find those toe pads are really arduous. This actually here is our PI. And you can see he has a lizard pole here, and then there's a sneaky lizard here on the branch. And yeah, he's gonna get caught. So then after they catch them, what happens is they actually have a portable X-ray machine that they bring out to wherever they're going. And then they knock out the lizard and tape them to the machine so then we can get pictures like this. And then later, they bring it back to the lab and manually put all of these landmarks on there here. So obviously, as a computer science student, you look at an image like this and you're like, machine learning could really help you out with that. So that's exactly what we did. So we used a toolbox called ML Morph, and you can see here it can be used on other things besides lizards. So here it's being used on flywings. Here it's being used on a fish. So one of the issues with MLMorph is it doesn't have an easy way to visualize or fix predictions. Here is actually the default way that MLMorph will show you how the model is doing. And this is really nice for like getting a model that will give you those landmarks that are actually like, pretty reasonable. But once it's done and you're like, all right, I have enough error, I feel pretty good about this, it's pretty hard to like use this same visualization, mostly because yeah, it's not useful. So uh, what we did is we made a user interface in order to make this next part a little easier. Some things that I want to talk about the user interface is it can be used to fix predictions. So you can see here that the model predicted landmark 17, which is supposed to be on the toe, kind of just here in the ether. So I was using the tool, I was able to just, scoot it back over. So that was no big deal. The other thing we do is we view the image in different contrasts. This is how the original X-ray comes in. And you can see here that it's really hard to see the toe bones. And that since the landmarks need to be pretty precise, like it's helpful to have different versions of the image so that you can make sure that what the model is predicting is what you'd like. And then the last one is inverted color, which is like helpful for us to see kind of the landmarks on the body. So going forward, we want to use this tool, I guess, with like other types of creatures, not just lizards. And then here I have like where our tool is hosted. Do we have time for like a quick demonstration or?
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
got a few minutes.
cool. All right. I will drag it over once it's ready. She's feeling a little slow today. All right. Okay. So you can upload an image or a lot of them, but I'm just going to upload one because, that makes things nice and friendly. All right, and then you can edit the points. You can see, yeah. And if there were more images here, you could switch between them. And of course, you could export the data, which has the visualizations and also the files that you fixed. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. One question that I have for you is like, I know you said that you were looking, or I think I read this in your slides, maybe that you sent over to me, that you're like hoping that this can expand outside of just applications for lizards. Are there any sort of collaborations that you're keen to start like making between other people in the sector? Like what should people come and talk to you about if they're interested?
Yeah, if you need landmarking, let me know. But yeah, we haven't really had any collaborators yet because actually the tool is very recently up on Georgia Tech. So yeah, that's exciting.
Cool. Well, congratulations. And thank you again.
Thank you.
And if anybody has questions for Mercedes, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll send her over there to answer those. And now we are going to move on to our last speed talk of the day, which is from Alexander Merdian-Tarko, who's going to be sharing his experience and perspectives on ways to get involved in open source conservation. So, Alex, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thanks. Okay, I'm Alex, based in Cologne in Germany. I'm a data scientist at River Group, a big German retail corporation. And there I focus on using machine learning to reduce food waste. And before that, I've been a data scientist at UNICEF Germany, where I focused on machine learning for fundraising. So sort of my pattern is to use data science and machine learning to work on causes or issues that have a societal relevance. And I'm here today because conservation is another cause I care a lot about. And there are a lot of issues currently going on. And that's why I have been trying in the recent past to get involved and try to contribute. And yeah, so this is why I'll be sharing some of my experiences as a volunteer in the conservation open source space. And first project I'd like to present to you is land cover mapping for CASA with WWF Germany. CASA is a big conservation area in Southern Africa, spanning several countries, and it's vast. And I simply reached out to WWF Germany's space science team, who works on land cover mapping and creating maps and the like. And I met some really, really nice people there who helped me to build some skills in this area, in this field, and let me contribute to a couple of projects of theirs. And the first project we've been working, or the general question they basically have is where are agricultural fields located in this conservation area, and how do they evolve over time? And one thing we built is, one thing we did is detecting agricultural fields on satellite imagery. It's on the left. And on the right, you see an example where we extended that approach and we're tracking additional land cover classes beyond just agricultural fields. And the idea that the impact this is supposed to have is that through this work, we'd like to support the people who actually make decisions on the ground during their monitoring efforts. Second experience I'd like to present is a coding challenge I've participated with another collaborator of mine. And it's called, it has been called EMAG 23, Equipping Move Apps for Conservation. Move Apps is a movement ecology platform, an open one developed by the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior in Southern Germany, together with other collaborators as well. And so that it's pretty new. They had this coding challenge with different conservation use cases, and people were asked to try and build solutions or try to build apps for this platform. And what you see in the bottom left corner is a screenshot of an app we built. It's basically a dashboard where you can get some statistics on animal movement, and also it has a stationarity detection ingrained. So animals that don't move anymore, or whose sensors don't move anymore, they are tagged as stationary. And yeah, it was really, really cool to go to a workshop that followed that coding challenge and meet people from all over the world. Sort of, yeah, that was really a really cool experience actually, because I haven't done something like that before. And so a lot of apps were created in the wake of this coding challenge in the workshop and what followed after. And together we also wrote a citizen science paper, and it has been accepted for publication in Methods in Ecology and Evolution, which is also a really cool outcome. And lastly, another project of mine I'm also currently still working on is WILDLABS.NET. It's a species classifier for the Terai region in Nepal. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. I asked my colleague from Nepal how to do it, but it's hard for me. Yeah, so basically there's this very special ecosystem in Nepal, close to the border to India. And you have all sorts of animals there, Bengal tigers, of course, rhinos, elephants, deer, all sorts of animals. And I've been in touch with a member of this community here, Peter from Ardax Data Science. Probably a lot of you know him. And he pointed me to this opportunity to actually build this sort of model, because, for example, organizations like the Nepal Tiger Trust, they collect a lot of camera trap images in this area, and they could certainly benefit from using machine learning to reduce the manual effort that is required to analyze them. So I start building this with a lot of support from the community as well, using open source tools. And now all the code is available freely on GitHub. The model is deployed in Ardax AI. And I hope this is going to be supportive in Bengal tiger conservation. And maybe there's some field evaluation pending. I hope it's going to work out. Yeah, so that has been really exciting. Finally, some things I have learned throughout my experiences in the past. Be curious. Basically, everything you encounter is a learning opportunity. Be patient. Building these things and learning stuff takes time. Impact also takes time and can be not so straightforward. Talk to people. Most people are really kind and open and full of insight, so it's really nice to connect to people from all over the world and see what they're up to, learn from them, and maybe help each other out. And finally, also manage expectations. It might also take time to find the right fit. And don't burn out. Because for me, for example, I do this on the side. And it's sometimes also important to just manage time and your resources. And finally, a call to action from my volunteer perspective. Get involved. Join a community like WILDLABS. I mean, since you're here on this call, you're pretty much sort of doing it. Look out for challenges or people needing help, or reach out yourself. Sometimes these work surprisingly well, these outreaches, or maybe just start building something and see where you go from there. Anyway, in any case, you learn a lot, meet amazing people, and maybe even make a real impact, which is, I think, really cool. And that's already it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that talk. We have a few questions in the chat. I don't think we'll have time to get to both of them live, but one that I think will be a little bit, might be quicker to answer is, can this model be applied to other animals and world regions as well? And do you have any concrete leads for further projects already? I assume that's about the Ardax AI collaboration in Nepal.
There are a lot of challenges with this specific model, because we don't have, for example, local images from Nepal actually. So we just most of the images are taken from Lila BC, so they are openly available, but none of them are really from Nepal. So it remains to be seen how well this model actually generalizes to Nepal and this area there, which is why I hope that these field evaluations will actually happen, because this will be very insightful. And yeah, but basically you can apply that model to other regions as well. There are not a lot of species in there. It's very focused on Nepal. But the cool thing is, I built this in mind with reproducibility in mind and transferring it to other ecosystems as well. So it's sort of a blueprint or a toolbox. So in a nutshell, you just select different species, run the entire pipeline, and then you have a new species classifier for sort of a new ecosystem with the relevant species there. It's very simplistically speaking. Yeah, and I have already something in mind. Perhaps there might be something relevant in Kenya, where for a smaller ecosystem there, maybe a national park or something, where the diversity of species is maybe a bit concentrated, a bit more concentrated, not so vast. Maybe something similar, which is useful, could be built for that.
Well, thank you so much. And there's another question in the chat that I think is probably more of a philosophical conversation that anybody can join in on about sort of risks with open source data in terms of like poaching and like wildlife crime. So I'm going to throw you and anybody else who wants to tackle that question into the chat. And while that happens, we are going to pop into our WILDLABS ad break to share some news and announcements with you all. And let me just pull up my notes. Great. So we have two big announcements for today before we hop into our quiz. The first is that we have a new team member on the WILDLABS team joining us this summer as a graduate research intern. We have Aisha. We're so excited to have Aisha on the team with us working on the state of conservation tech data. So I'm going to pass it over to her really quickly to just introduce herself to the community, tell you a bit about what she's working on. So whenever you're ready, Aisha, take it away.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Alex. I'm Aisha Zafar. I'm a Master's of Public Policy student at UC Berkeley. I'm here for the summer as a WWF Bridge intern, and I'm going to be working with WILDLABS on the State of Conservation Tech report. I'm a big data person. I have a background in economics and international development. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and excited to learn more from the community.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to have her and really excited to see how our 5-year trends report comes out with her awesome help and knowledge and skills. Our next announcement for today is this is sort of you're getting a sneak peek of what's coming down the pipeline in WILDLABS if you're joining today's Variety Hour call, because you all are hearing it here first that we will be formally announcing the launch of the Boring Fund 2025 next week. So for those who don't know, the Boring Fund is a funding opportunity specifically for the quote unquote boring foundational sort of work of the sector, like creating documentation, publishing training materials, maintaining technical infrastructure, community building, and more. So the types of things that are not flashy, very difficult to find traditional funding for, but are essential for creating an efficient and long-lasting sector with prosperity and whatnot. So be on the lookout for a formal announcement next week, but feel free to start thinking about your applications now. If somebody from the WILDLABS team could maybe drop in a link to, Talia, you did it, amazing, to learn about the Boring Fund in general. If you're not familiar with it, please feel free to visit that link and learn more about what this fund is all about and to start, sort of brainstorming any ideas you may have. And we'll be talking more about this when we formally launch it next week, but this year's fund is bigger and better than last year's, so there are going to be more opportunities to get funding for your boring projects, and we are super excited for it. So that's it for announcements from the WILDLABS team, and we are going to move into our quiz. And this month's quiz is all about the inventory, which is, if you aren't familiar, is WILDLABS' wiki-style database of conservation tech tools, projects, and R&D pipelines. We launched the inventory just over a year ago, so we figured it was a good time to quiz everybody on how you're using the inventory, and so hopefully, get you on there, adding your products and reviews and whatnot. So feel free to use the chat to to drop in whatever you think the answer is to these questions, and we will take it away. How many products, and I made this quiz last week, so the numbers might be slightly out of date, so please don't cancel me for that. How many products are currently on the inventory? Is it 873, 467, or 726? Hint, feel free to go on the inventory to find the answer. And like I said, the numbers might be slightly off because I made this quiz on Friday. Are my slides not sharing right now? Oh my gosh. Oh my God, I wish somebody said something. That's horrible. Am I not sharing anything right now?
No, not yet. But just start
You
sharing
are
now.
sharing.
Oh, I am sharing?
Can you see
Yeah,
your
it
screen?
was working until now.
Yeah, it was working.
Oh, my God. Huh. Heart
Great.
Attack City. Okay, so
Hi.
now everybody's seeing this. Okay, now Talia's seeing the slide, but everybody's seeing it before. Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. My heart rate is crazy. Like I said, I made this quiz last week, so the numbers might be slightly out of date. Yes, Dan, Talia is messaging me. The answer is, as of last week, 468. Today might be 469, and that's amazing that we have one new entry between last week and today. Next question. How many organizations are currently on the inventory? Is it 1,158, 2,180, or 912? Frank's coming in with around 1,100. So is everybody else. If you're getting this wrong, it's crazy because the answer is right on line. No one else is guessing. Oh, there we go. Okay, some more 1158s, 1159, because Josh is keeping up to date with the exact numbers. And the answer is, as of last week, 1158. As of today, 1159. Very exciting. Next question. Which is not a development stage for R&D projects on the inventory? Is it early stage / experimental, open, operational, or pilot / trials? If you're having trouble, you can always go to the R&D product page or the R&D page and look at the different filters for development stages for a hint. Talia asks, isn't that cheating? No. Because the purpose of this quiz is to get people on the inventory. Dan says open doesn't sound like a stage, and everybody else is guessing open. And you know what? Dan's right. Open is not a stage for R&D projects on the inventory. Congrats to Dan and everybody else who guessed open. Next question. What badge do you have to contribute to the inventory? Popular level 1, poster level 2, or Sprout badge? Frank's saying Sprout. Jay's saying Sprout. Aisha's saying Sprout. Jose's saying popular level 1. It's a contrarian. Jay's asking how to become a Sprout. That's a great question. And I hope that someone on the Wild Labs team can maybe send the link about how to earn your Sprout badge. Because the answer is Sprout badge, which is a badge that sort of accumulates a bunch of different activities on Wild Labs, such as filling in your profile, I think liking or commenting on posts a certain amount of times, writing a message in the welcome thread. And those are the things to do to unlock your Sprout badge, which then gives you the capability to add things to the inventory, leave reviews, make edits, and whatnot. If you have questions about badges, we can send a link about how to earn your Sprout badge in the chat. And the last question, I think, there might be one more. True or false? You can tag all Wild Labs content with inventory content. True or false? True, says Frank. True, question mark, exclamation point from Josh. True, from Jose. The answer is true. When you make a discussion thread or an article or a opportunity or anything on Wild Labs, you can tag stuff that is on the inventory, whether it's organizations or products or R&D projects, which is a great way to sort of create catalogs of different work or organizations or products. So I encourage you to, if you're posting a question about AudioMoth, to tag it to the AudioMoth page on the inventory so that other people that maybe have questions about AudioMoth can see your discussion thread, maybe get their questions answered before they even have to ask it. There was one more question. Okay. How many badges are available for inventory related activity? I know you guys love your badges. Is it 2 badges? Is it 3 badges? Or is it 1 badge? Josh says probably 3 because we love badges. Frank says 3. Jose says 3. Ilya says 3. And the answer is 3. You're right. You guys love your badges, and there are 3 badges that you can earn from doing stuff on the inventory, including editing content. I might need help. I need a little bit of help here. Editing content, adding stuff to the inventory, and there's one more.
Key contact?
What was it?
Like a key
Was it
contact?
key contact?
I think so. Is it?
I'm not sure. We need fact check.
It's
We need fact check
reviewing.
from Jake. Reviewing. Yes.
Review.
So for
So
adding
technically
things to
there's
the
4.
I was
What's
gonna
the
say, I'm
fourth
pretty
one?
sure contact is also one of them.
Okay, I was talking about level
You can't earn
badges,
that,
I
though.
guess.
You have to apply for that one, I guess. So technically it
Okay,
is
so
3, I
it's,
guess.
you can earn 3 badges by engaging with the inventory. And that is the end of the Variety Hour quiz. I encourage you all to, if there are products that you're using that you like or that you don't like or that you feel ambivalent about, feel free to leave reviews about them on the inventory so other people can learn from your experience. Adding products that you use to the inventory so that we can create this large repository of all the information about conservation tech tools and R&D projects and organizations that are out there. Because this is a wiki style database, it becomes more robust and more useful with community contributions. So I encourage you all to, now that you already have the tab open to find out the answers to all these questions, to poke around, leave reviews, add some stuff, get your Sprout badge. And yeah, that concludes the ad break and quiz for today. Now it's time to hand it over to our last speaker, our long talk for today, from Shauna Mahajan, who's going to be introducing the Eleanor data platform, which is designed to promote transparency and collaboration on environmental governance and management. So Shauna, whenever you're ready to share your screen, take it away.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. It's been really wonderful to be here today and be part of a new community for the hour. My name is Shauna Mahajan. I am with WWF US, and I'm really excited to talk to you about the EleanorData.org platform that's been in the works for quite a while, working to strengthen transparency and promote effective area-based conservation around the world. And just a little context before we dive in, I'm sure many of this group already knows that we're halfway through a really critical decade as countries around the world strive to meet their 30 by 30 goals. But we know that there are a lot of challenges for monitoring our progress towards those goals, both a lot of the conservation outcomes that we care about, but also Target 3 of the Global Biodiversity Framework does underscore the importance of areas under conservation or management, that they need to be effective and equitably governed. There are a number of technological capacity and systemic barriers that have prevented us from really doing this kind of monitoring at a global level. And we really had these 2 points in mind when we started developing Eleanor back in 2020. So the platform was launched in 2022 as a free and open source tool that's designed to make it easier for conservation practitioners and for researchers to gather, store, share, and most importantly, use governance and management monitoring data to strengthen area-based conservation efforts. And we built our work on a wealth of knowledge, experience, and tools that are already out there in the conservation world. This slide couldn't fit all the amazing work that's been done in this space. But just to say that we really looked around to what was out there already, the challenges, the opportunities of the different tools for monitoring both environmental governance and management have had tackled to date. And we tried to kind of find our little niche in this world. And specifically, we're looking to create something that could help people around the world monitor both protected areas, but also areas that may not be formally protected, be they locally led conservation areas or other effective conservation measures that are commonly getting referred to as OECMs these days. We were also trying to find a balance between the practice of conservation and the richness that comes from the social sciences, on what we know both from theory and practice, what leads to effective and equitable management. And from a technological perspective, we really wanted to create something that was free, open source, easy to use, and that leveraged the power of technology for fostering more data sharing and collaborative learning. And of course, importantly, really getting that data into the hands of users that need to make adaptive management decisions on a day-to-day basis, be it at a site level, a regional level, a national level, or even globally. So Eleanor data helps users collect both basic information about an area under conservation or management. We call that background data, and information about management and governance that uses 35 carefully selected questions that are nested across 10 attributes. And when I say carefully selected, it took us about 2 years to whittle down the questions that are actually part of the Eleanor data survey today, taking in, I think, over 100 comments from different conservation practitioners, scientists from around the world, to kind of distill these 10 attributes that you see here on the screen. So some are really kind of pragmatic, focused on like, does an area have the money they need to actually implement effective conservation, to some of the more theoretical on whether or not the actual systems of governance are nested in ways that can deliver good outcomes through time. And just to give you a really quick walkthrough today of what the platform looks like, when you visit eleanordata.org, you see a landing page like this. We invite all users to sign up for a free account. It helps you see what data is on the platform, but also to create and assess your own areas. And just some important things to note here, we are really trying to make this platform as accessible to people around the world as possible. We've got 5 languages up and running right now, 2 more in the pipeline. And there's also tons of documentation on the platform on how you get started using the platform, especially if you're newer to assessing governance and management. There's some great videos that introduce some of the kind of theoretical concepts and the questions and the approach behind the tool. A key part of the platform is actually creating, storing, and using the data from assessments of areas. And this is what it looks like if you were to go in and try to assess an area. This is a nice test assessment, but you could do it for, say a locally managed marine area or a commonly managed park if you would like. So the platform has the key kind of background assessment data that stores important relational information like who you are, why you're assessing this area, as well as some of that core background information on that managed area itself. The 35 questions are found under the survey tool. I'll speak a little bit as to how you can select which questions are included in your assessment. And importantly, we have this collaborators feature as part of Eleanor. As we know, often doing any kind of assessment, there's often lots of different people who may touch an assessment. So it could be a community leader in a community managed area partnering with somebody from, say, WWF on an assessment, working with me who sits in the US office trying to pull data together across regions. So you can add as many collaborators as you want to an assessment so people can really easily access the data at a site level. And like I mentioned before, we try to customize the platform so it's easy for people to use it for whatever goals that they might have. We recommend assessing all 10 attributes, but we know there are often reasons why somebody might not have the time to do a full, we estimate it takes about 1 to 3 hours to complete a full survey. So users have the option to choose what attributes they want to assess. And then this is what a question looks like. We built the questionnaire really based on a lot of the tools that we see used a lot in the conservation community, including the management effectiveness tracker tool. So the question follows the same format in that there's 4 multiple choice response that basically range from that question, whatever it's being asked. In this case, it's about who has the rights to harvest resources within an area, whether or not that exists versus it being fully present. As I said earlier, we also know that not everybody is an expert in management and governance. So each question has a lot of information on the right-hand side that helps users understand why we're even asking that question and what additional information might be used to help answer the question. And the survey can be carried out as kind of a desk-based assessment for those who are really knowledgeable about an area, or the ideal methodology is actually doing a participatory focus group with different people who are involved in or impacted by the management of that area. So depending on the pathway, we suggest what extra information might help you and whoever's completing the assessment together answer the questions to the best of your ability. Finally, when the assessment is complete, and I'll just quickly note, you'll see some buttons up top that show kind of upload and download survey. We have lots of different ways that users can interact with the platform. So people can either first just download the survey, complete it offline, especially if you're in a remote area. The platform itself can be taken offline, so you can enter it in the platform and then reconnect to the internet and the data is uploaded, or you can just do it live online. But when a survey is complete, users have the choice on how they want to share that data. The vision of Eleanor was really to promote more transparency in how areas are governed. So we encourage users to publish their findings, which makes the data available publicly on the platform. But we also know there are many reasons why data might need to be kept private for either security reasons or other reasons. And so users can just finalize the assessment, store it on the platform, and only their collaborators can actually see the data. And then most importantly, that final step, generating that report so it can be used by key stakeholders. And this is what the report looks like today. It automatically analyzes those questions into a simple score out of 100, which gives you sort of a, at the courses level, how is that area doing across all attributes of management and governance? But it also breaks it down by question. If you want to understand where are there areas of growth that area needs to really work on developing to improve its management and governance, or areas that just need to be either maintained or strengthened a little bit. And I'm just going to end with a little case study of what this tool has looked like in practice in a part of the world where I get the privilege to work on a regular basis in the Southwest Indian Ocean, which is the wonderful body of water that borders the East African coastline. So we've been using Eleanor across the region as a key monitoring tool because it really fits the kind of context and needs that we've had in the area as conservationists. So locally managed marine conservation is a really critical strategy in the region for strengthening ecosystem governance and improving the well-being for coastal communities. But despite this investment that many of us across the conservation community have been making in community-led conservation, we actually don't know a lot about what the current status is of community management in the region. And so enter Eleanor. We decided to use Eleanor as a tool for a lot of different reasons. So one, really just to understand what's going on, but also to try to identify what leverage points we could try and address more proactively as conservationists, both at local levels, but also nationally and across the region to strengthen community-led governance. And then finally, to create a more stronger sense of collaboration across the region and have a shared tool that can help us on a more regular basis compile and use information on management and governance to make informed decisions. And so there were lots of different reasons why different conservationists across the region decided to use Eleanor in their projects. Some were more for project baselining. Some were incorporating Eleanor as part of regular monitoring systems. There was one example where new management plans were being developed in coastal Tanzania, and Eleanor was used to help inform that process. But we were able to compile a data set of 52 community managed areas across 5 countries in the Southwest Indian Ocean. And this is what we found. So this is a summary of all the different community managed areas. We kind of treated each one as a data point for this visual here. And it shows that even though there's been so much investment in community-led conservation, we still have a lot of work to do to help ensure communities have the capacities and resources they need to manage areas effectively. So more than half of the areas assessed kind of fell in that kind of plan or build category. And maybe just one more note on our scoring system. We know that governance is an ideal state. Good governance is an ideal state that we're striving towards. So we're always going to be kind of somewhere on this spectrum. So the scoring was really designed to be action oriented. Again, I won't go, there was so much richness in this report. I'm going to pop the link in the chat for the full findings from this study, but we were able to distill a number of high-level recommendations for the region on what we could do as a community to help really strengthen community governance based on the data that we saw. One being importance to really ensure communities have the rights to manage. There were a lot of variabilities across countries and the legal frameworks that kind of showed up in practice in the data, all the way up to just the value of using the Eleanor platform together, and something we're really keen to do going forward, but I'd love to hear thoughts from this community on is how do we better integrate some of the data that we're starting to compile on governance and management with some of the conservation outcome data that we really care about. So in the marine context, that might be the health of coral reef ecosystems or mangrove cover and so on. And so just to end, we are very much in the process of building out and developing Eleanor. We're really focused on scaling its use and keen to help onboard new users to the platform. Like I mentioned, we're starting to incorporate new languages based on the demand that we're hearing from users. So if you're interested and have a language you'd want to see on the site, let us know. We're really, really keen to figure out this question on how do we better bridge social and ecological data. So linking up governance data with the ecological outcome data that that we're really trying to drive in conservation. You'll also see soon, in a month or so, we'll have a new user interface up on the website that will make those reports even easier to engage with for decision makers, and easier for users to get them into the hands of those who need them. And so I'd really love to hear from anybody, if you dive into the Eleanor platform, or based on this short presentation today, what you would like to see in a platform like this, and uses that you see in the projects and programs that you work with. And just to end, in case you were wondering why we named the tool Eleanor, Eleanor Ostrom has been an inspiration for a lot of the work I do, and I know many in the conservation community. She was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in economics for her theory of common pool resource governance. And she really showed that our planet could be protected through community, collaboration, and cooperation, which are all values that we're really trying to channel with the platform as it develops and evolves over time. And in that spirit, there were so many people behind this project that I couldn't fit them all on a slide. But today, myself and my colleague Dan Reed are kind of the key points of contact for anything operational on Eleanor. So if you have any questions, you're keen to use the tool, please feel free to reach out, or you could reach the whole team, including the tech team, through the eleanordata.org contact us form. And with that, I will hand it back to Alex. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's incredible. And obviously, WILDLABS, our whole philosophy is rooted in the power of community working together. So Eleanor is an awesome platform. And I also learned I just learned who the original Eleanor was, and she sounds great also. And we have some questions in the chat. One that's also a little bit more potentially like open to the community for like a discussion. But one question is from Talia about what integration of ecological data might look like on Eleanor, and if it would go into the calculations of existing questions or be a new component of the assessment altogether. So if you have any thoughts or answers on that, feel free to share.
Yeah, and this is something that's very much a live conversation, and we're just starting to explore this with 2 data systems. So Mermaid is a data tool and system for bringing together coral reef monitoring data. And we've been talking with them. We actually share a backend developer. So we've been talking a lot with them on how do we kind of create the right connections between those platforms to allow, it's more spatial connections, in that like you might have an Eleanor assessment for a locally managed marine area, and we might see on, say, Mermaid that there were coral reef transect studies done in that same site. And so being able to better understand where that overlap is and then pull those data together in an easy to use output. I would defer to my colleague Nasser Alvaro from WWF US, who's our data and tech lead from the US side, from WWF US, on Eleanor, on like kind of how all that plays out in practice. But our ultimate goal is trying to make it easier for those who are managing areas, trying to make decision based on data, to bring together the different data sources that would help them have a better, more holistic picture of impact in any particular place.
And maybe, I mean, there's a few more minutes till the top of the hour. I'm curious, the other question that Talia posed was sort of more philosophical about like what an equivalent for Eleanor could potentially look like for like determining like conservation tech capacity, which is maybe not an answer that you necessarily have, Shauna, but could just be like a open discussion for anybody else on the call who might have thoughts about it, of, you know, what that could look like, of developing or like integrating that sort of information into existing systems or new ones.
Yeah, just to add to that, Sean, I know we've talked a little bit about this, but I'd be just curious, since this is largely a conservation tech community we're talking to here, like I know that there are some components of technical capacity that you ask about, but I'd be curious to hear, like, do you think there's room for capturing that better within Eleanor? Because I think there's definitely room for a tool to be inspired by Eleanor, similar to this, but I'd be curious, within the governance structure, how does technical capacity fit into that?
Yeah, so there's one question under the, I mentioned there are 10 attributes. There's a question for operational capacity. And a lot of the questions from that operational capacity attribute come from the management effectiveness tracker tool, which is a tool that's been used for decades in conservation. And it is, I can't remember exactly how it's phrased, but it's around, does the area or the team managing the area have like the resources they need to do their job well? And one thing that we always suggest with, there's some amount of training that goes into being able to facilitate a good survey and ask the right probing questions. And what I would suggest is that, for anybody who's leading a survey, that you could kind of think about what are those probing questions you would want to nest under a question like that. And that information could get captured in the qualitative data that's collected. I kind of breezed through it given time, but you may have seen when the question was up, there's that multiple choice section, but then there's also a kind of explanation box, which from a social science perspective is really key because it gives you the opportunity to kind of put in some of the why and how answer to that question. Because one thing that we always struggled with, Eleanor, is that we're trying to capture a lot of information. And we always joke that like we make everybody angry with this survey because we're just touching on like a little bit of everything. We're not going really deep into equity. We're not going really deep into management. We're not going deep into technology needs. We're trying to capture a little bit of everything. But the trade-off is that we then get, broad insights, and those broad insights can then help you figure out where you need to go deeper. So another thought I had after we talked, Talia, was you do an assessment and you find out, as we found in the SWIO region, almost everyone was lacking operational capacity. So there's a clear need for us to maybe follow up and be like, well, what are the most essential operational capacity gaps we should start to fill, and then kind of build from there.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we are, I think, right at time. And there's another question in the chat, but I'm gonna hold off on that just so we don't keep anybody on that might have to go, but feel free to stick around and we can address that question from Josh about open source collaborations. But for now, I'm gonna end the recording in just a second. But thank you to everybody for joining, especially to our speakers and their presentations that were all fantastic. Everybody, like I said, is invited to stick around for after hours for more casual conversation about any of the talks that we heard today or anything else. But thank you again all for coming, and we will see you next month on July 30th.